Hello and welcome to another out-of-spec detailing video from Clear Detailing located in Windsor, Colorado. This is part 2 of Rivian R1T new vehicle prep, and we are back in the wash bay. So we've already got this car in the last video washed, prepped for the paint correction. We looked through all of the kind of issues around this vehicle and got the paint on its first step of paint correction. So now I'm going to take you through the process. I'm not going to show you the whole wash. It's the same exact thing, but we are going to add in cleaning door jambs, and I may talk about that a little bit, as well as all of the compound removal on the trim from the Rivian factory. We're also going to go through the adhesive removal from the clear bra that we removed, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and kind of the process. So let's jump right into this one. Can't wait for it. All right, so first things first, we removed the clear bra off this gear tunnel, and holy smokes, there's a lot of adhesive on there. Kind of interested, like I talked about in the last video, as we come around here, noticing I did the same exact method on this side, and little to no residue came off the clear bra. Very, very strange. Not exactly sure why that is, but nonetheless, the job is to remove the adhesive. So I'm going to start off with Geon Tar Remover. This is one of my favorite adhesive removals. So I'm just going to go ahead and start by soaking this down because we are doing the full wash process next. So I'm going to let this dwell, right? That's one of the biggest things, especially with adhesive. This is safe on all the plastic down there as well. We're going to kind of let this eat and melt all of this nasty adhesive away. It's probably going to take a few times, maybe a little scrubbing. We'll kind of see how it goes, but so far already starting to remove a little bit of it here. This is some really thick adhesive. Again, not really sure exactly why this panel was so much different. We also removed the clear bra from here, same little to no adhesive, as well as on the other side, little to no adhesive. So something happened with this panel, not exactly sure what. The clear bra that was on here, as I talked a little bit before, it kind of seemed, I can't really tell exactly, but the film didn't seem the greatest. The other thing that was happening on this and why we removed that, if you remember, is we had some lifting lines. This one had a lot of lifting lines down here that I actually didn't even show. But when I pulled that off, this whole bottom edge was exposed to dirt, really holding in all that nastiness. The other side had a bunch of lifting lines here and a bunch of dirt left in there. What I'm assuming is happening with Rivian here is they are taking pre-cut panels, and if pre-cut panels aren't perfectly aligned, what happens is if you get it too tight up here, then down here you're running either over or coming up short. So lots of install errors there, but I think this is the right way to go for this particular client and vehicle. So I'm going to let this sit. I'm going to show you a little bit more of the process of removing this, and we'll get through the wash process. Okay, so we have gone ahead and let this sit for about 3 or 4 minutes. Now, I'm going to rinse the trim off here just to get some of that tar remover off there. Not a big deal. The biggest thing with this is you just don't want to let it dry. Now, let's talk about the process on this. So this has had some time to sit, and as it starts to come off more and more. What I have found actually is the easiest and kind of safest way, which is actually may seem a little weird or controversial, but is a plastic card. This is an old hotel room key. It's nice and soft plastic. Now, I do want you guys to understand, this will scratch it slightly, but since we're doing a paint correction, those scratches are not super deep. We'll be able to go in there and hit it pretty easily. So I'm going to spray a little bit more on here, and we'll kind of focus on this top section because I have a feeling this is going to take quite a bit of time. But as I just wipe this across, check out how much adhesive we're removing. Now, a lot of times what I've seen in the past and what I've actually done in the past as well is just taking a towel and kind of wiping this down. The problem with that is, for one, it's not as effective. And number two, you're doing as much kind of scratching in this as well. So I find that this is a safer way. I'm not jamming this into the paint. I'm just lightly kind of scraping that top layer off. As the adhesive remover pulls down, look at the amount of adhesive coming off there. This is actually pink because the tar remover is pink. That's not the adhesive. But this stuff is just absolutely fantastic for this. And this is a really gross, nasty process to get this much adhesive off. Again, even if we would have taken this vehicle outside to remove it, we were kind of on a little bit of a time constraint because we got done with the paint correction later in the afternoon and didn't have that nice afternoon hot sun here. But this would be a perfect example. Say I was in the middle of winter, right? So we're in January, your new Rivian comes in, you decide, hey, this is just not for me as far as PPF. This is exactly what I would do in the winter time. So remove the clear bra inside in a safe manner, whether that be either pulling because it's, you know, without heat or anything like that because it's relatively new, or we'd introduce either a heat gun, not my favorite method, but definitely a method, and maybe even a little bit of really, really hot water. So again, we've got the first layer down here. Look at the amount of adhesive coming off there. Just insane to see that. But this came off relatively easy. I spent a couple of minutes kind of waiting around for this to dwell. What I'll likely do is spray this down again, get the last remaining bits, maybe hit it with a microfiber towel, and then we'll get into the washing process of the vehicle. Okay, so on this, probably spent, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes, give or take, off camera, just kind of using the credit card method. I also did come in here a little bit once the initial big chunky layers were off of the adhesive. There's still a few areas here or there, so I'm going to come in one more time and knock this down. This stuff is pretty nasty stuff. It's heavily, heavily citrus. Want to be making sure you're wearing gloves with this. Now, I also want to touch on the point talking about when we're removing clear bra. So if you imagine this panel sitting on there for 10 years and how much, you know, adhesive you'd have to take off compared to just this. Imagine if you're doing a full wrap on these. Kind of something to think about down the road is, okay, so I put a protective layer on it, and now down the road, when I go to take it off and replace it for whatever reason, are you going to run into this type of stuff? Is it the end of the world? No, but if you're wrapping the entire vehicle, can you imagine doing this on the whole car? Just something to think about as you go. Again, I've let this sit a little bit. I really want to make sure I get all the edges because that's one of those areas that definitely holds on quite a bit. So I'm coming in with a towel. Again, I'm not super concerned about scratching this because we are going to be buffing this. So if I get a little area that's a little bit more kind of tricky, put some more tar remover on there, jump right in. I'm lightly scrubbing this, guys. I'm not pushing into this by any means. We are definitely putting some scratches in there, just something to think about. It's not the end of the world. Again, since we are doing the paint correction on this afterwards, that is going to save that, make it look just as new. It's not going to look like there was ever film here, so not too concerned about it. Again, just coming in here lightly. I'm not sitting here just really jamming this. Also don't want to let it dry. So I'm being mindful working in these sections here, kind of watching this up here. It is starting to dry a little bit, so don't want to let that fully dry on the paint. I'm going to probably do one last rinse here. And we're looking pretty good. So for that amount of adhesive, I mean, that was pretty substantial, right? I spent, I don't know, 15 minutes, give or take, on that one section. Just something to think about if you guys are interested in doing clear bra. Now, I will say, not all film does this. I do not know what film was on this. Normally, the higher end films wouldn't do this, but you never know how the film was installed. Did it have tack solution on it because they were having issues with it adhering? How are the edges? You know, there's a lot of little things to consider when you guys are putting film on your car and not just, just leaving it naked. So just something to think about down the road. Again, like I said, I want to make a full-fledged video on ClearBra, talk through the pros and cons. I want to talk with Kyle through it because him and I see similar, but also have very different ideas on this. So kind of an interesting fact there. But as far as this panel, I think we're ready to go for the wash process after we get it paint corrected. I'm going to get this dried down. I'll probably rinse this, maybe even foam it down, do a quick paint correction on this panel, and then we'll go into the full washing of the vehicle. All right, so we got this panel wiped down now, and I do want to show you as we come in here all of the little scratches that we put in there. Honestly, not that bad. These are not very deep, very superficial scratches in here. There's definitely some here and there. I'm really not worried about that. Honestly, if you're taking your car through a brush car wash, you're doing more damage than this every single time you do that. So just something to think about. That credit card trick is kind of a weird one. I was very skeptical when I first heard about that, and it works pretty well. Also, do apologize. It's kind of late at night here and nice northern Colorado thunderstorm here. So apologize if the rain hitting the building is a little bit loud. I can only do what we can do, right? So yeah, definitely some scratches there. I'm just gonna come in here, quickly compound this. I'll show you the after results and we'll be done with the paint correction. The other side I've already got cleaned up just from those little areas, already compounded down, looks absolutely perfect. But we'll get this taken care of before we do that. All right, we've got all of the wheels cleaned now. Now let's talk about this trim. In the last video, I pointed all of this out. This is how the truck came to me. This is not from me compounding the truck. This would never happen because I tape up all of this trim, protecting it from stuff like this. This is compound, and it can be a little tricky to remove at times. I just tried some isopropyl alcohol back here off camera. It didn't come out, but this is actually a rubber cleaner, and I think it's going to be pretty good on here. I tried a little section, and this definitely takes some effort. So I'm being mindful. Obviously, I don't want to get too crazy into the paint and scratch it, but I'm just going to come in here. I put a little on this towel and want to see how this goes. So again, this is a product I would use on, say, tires to remove any tire shine or anything like that. You'll notice we've got most of it off. In person, I'm not sure how it's picking it up on camera. There's still a little bit there. So I may just have to put in a little bit more work, a little bit more elbow grease. Totally fine with me. That comes with the territory of detailing. The tricky part with this trim, especially like this is pretty heavily textured. So you got to really get in there. So I like using a microfiber towel in here because it's able to get in there, and it looks like we actually did remove all that. So I'm very, very pleased with that. It's going to take some time. Again, there's all along the side here, down on the lower panel here off camera, but that's about it. It just takes some elbow grease. I would have liked to not see this on here, but it is what it is. So I'm going to just double check this. I'll probably wipe this down with IPA quickly just to make sure that this isn't kind of covering anything. I can feel it's nice and clean though, so I think we got the ticket there and should be good to go. So I want to quickly show this section. I've got some isopropyl alcohol here. This is 70%, and just want to try this and see how this goes. Originally when I tried this on another section, didn't really get a lot out. We'll see how it kind of does here. So still quite a bit. It took off a little bit, but I'm liking the other product better. I think that's going to be what we're going to go with cleaning the rest of it. The IPA just doesn't seem to cut it as well. Let me try and hit it a little bit more. Yeah, still a little bit here. So a little bit more scrubbing, I would say, required on this. And yeah, so I think I'm going to stick with that rubber cleaner and make sure that that's working properly, but we should be good to go on that. All right, so we are dried off with the Rivian. Also, shop dogs making an appearance today. This is Charlie and Stella right here. They're always with me here at the shop. Anyways, so we've got the truck washed and ready for the polishing section. So as I talked about before, did a lot of work cleaning all of this on the door jambs. I didn't film any of that. It's kind of a messy, tricky process. We still have the interior to do, but got all of this cleaned up here, making sure that all these door jambs look absolutely perfect, dust-free. Actually, the gear tunnel, I was kind of surprised how much this holds here because we don't have a sill on the outside, rather only right here. So getting a lot of dirt and grime right here. We'll actually end up ceramic coating all of this in here when we're done. Also, an update on the trim. So I scrubbed this quite a bit by hand, and it's looking pretty darn good. There's still a few little areas like this that were really, really heavy, but most of this I got off, just as you can see, just a little right there. I believe the coating, I'm going to go over this one more time, but I believe the coating will take and hide most of that. Still, again, just a little pieces here. I don't think we're going to get 100% of this out, but looking a ton better even down here and around the truck. So we've got the wheels cleaned up now. Those are looking a lot better. I'll still do another cleaning on the tires, and we're actually coating the face of these wheels. So I'll clean the tires, coat the face of the wheel, make sure the barrels look okay as well after the fact and looking proper. The tailgate was also pretty dirty here. So we've got this all rinsed out underneath. Not going crazy in here doing much, but definitely under this flap as well. I don't think I shot any clips of it, but I cleaned all in here, just making sure it looks as good as possible. You'll notice there's still a few areas like right there. I'm gonna go in for my final details, make sure all of that is absolutely dialed in, but ready for the polish here. This thing's looking stunning. These panels here are just looking 10 times better without the PPF on them. No compound in the lines, just looks how it should. So as far as the polishing process, this should be pretty easy. We're not dealing with a ton of haze. This is, like I talked about, somewhat of a medium softness. It's kind of right in the middle, right? So it's not super hard, it's not super soft paint. So we're going to be over here using the Rupes line of polishes. This is actually a product I haven't used a ton. I just started using it, I think a couple weeks ago. I like the results on that. I was struggling with another polish to actually, what it would do is kind of leave this film on the car, and I didn't really like that. It was causing me more work. But as you can see, went in here and cleaned all of this trim up here. It's looking far, far better. I think anything residual, I'll go ahead and clean that one more time. I think even the IPA wipe down will take care of most of that. But yeah, we should be pretty good looking on that. This side wasn't as bad. Went through and cleaned all of that though as well. Got the tonneau cover cleaned here. I'm gonna do a spray sealant on this. What I've found, these are really heavily textured. I don't know if you guys can hear that. The mic's picking it up, but the ceramic coatings don't love this. They tend to splotch quite a bit. So what I'll probably end up doing, running a piece of tape down here, coating all of this up here, leaving this for a spray sealant. If you guys have any ideas on coatings, I've played with a few and just haven't been happy with the results of it. So that may be something to look for in the future. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead, start the polishing process. The shop dogs are having fun today, and we are ready to rock and roll here. I'm probably gonna throw you guys on a time lapse here. I can bring you in afterwards, show you how the paint's looking. So today, we're on about day 3. I know this video goes kind of quickly for you guys, but we're on day 3 of this. What we're gonna do for the rest of today is get the car polished, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to come in when it's nice and cool and we're going to coat the paint. We're going to do G-Technic Crystal Serum Light on the paint, topped with XOV4 on the paint. We're going to go in and coat all of the trim, every single one of these honeycombs. I'll be excited to show you guys how I do that. And definitely even underneath, we've got the whole skid plate. Down the sides, these panels go quite far, so lots of ceramic coating to do on that. Other than that, we're kind of getting there. Once we get through the compounding process, that's kind of like the biggest amount of work, right? So the rest is just kind of more the fun details, getting every last little detail tick. I did already go ahead and clean out all the seams here already. I always do that before I start the polish. I did want to make a quick note on this. Not exactly sure what happened here. I did make a note of that when the car got dropped off. This actually looks like there's a little bit of paint missing there. So I'm not sure if that was rubbed at one point or what the deal was there. I originally thought, hey, that's probably just compound because it looked like that section had been hit a little bit. But I think that's actually a scratch there. Other than that, this thing is looking stunning. I think the polish is really going to make this pop. It looks so nice as is. So let's throw you guys on a time lapse. I'm going to get polishing here. We're going to have some fun. All right, we're going to jump in here and polish this up in here. Luckily, already looked at this, not too swirled in here. So I didn't actually compound this section, just going to do a nice light polish on it. We've got the Rupes hybrid here. Speed around 3 to 4. I'll kind of play with it, see what we need to do. Being mindful of up here because we've got plastic up here. So we're just going to jump right in, start polishing. So I will come in afterwards and refine. I'm gonna get a little bit more up here. That's kind of a good basic step for right now. Getting a really, really nice polish in here. Same principles apply to polishing paint correction with the smaller ones, smaller buffing pads that is, just being mindful that they do kind of clog up a little bit more. Because of the surface area of the pad, so I'm always taking that into consideration. Also, in here, like in the little A here, we've got some water spots in there. When I come in, do my final prep before actually doing the last ceramic coating, I will make sure I clean that out, making sure that it looks as crystal clear as possible. Very tricky too. I like to have my headlamp on here, of course, SCANGRIP headlights on, and be able to come in here and make sure we get all the polish out of every little nook and cranny there. I'm going to flip to a new side here because we're kind of loading this towel up. Also want to note that on the taillight here, these are a little bit softer, so I'm going to leave that for right now for the polishing. And I'm going to actually use a different polish on the headlights and taillights. For whatever reason, these are gumming up quite a bit. So even with kind of a light polish, when I put it on here, it creates this, call it kind of stiction. So what's happening is there's so much residue pulling off of the taillight that it kind of gums up on there. So we have to use a different polish, use kind of the blowout method, quite a bit more on those, and making sure that we're getting it off, because I can already see when I came in here there was a little bit left. The headlights were really gumming up. I can show you guys what that looked like as well, but just something to consider while we're polishing here. So we've got the back end done. We're going to keep working down the side, and then kind of the last final finish is polishing. Is we're going to run through again on the taillights. All of the gloss black trim is very soft on this. So all the mirror surrounds, everything like that. It's going to be a little tricky to get, you know, down and finished properly, but we'll have to probably play with some different polishes on those. So just something to be mindful of. I'm not using the same polish here as here and then on all the gloss black trim, but this thing is looking absolutely stunning. All right, so I was able to replicate this on the kind of headlight bar here, same materials used here. Now, the interesting thing, so again, this is the same polish and pad combo that I'm using on the paint, but you'll notice how it's leaving this haze here, and it's really difficult to wipe off. You can, like, really, if you sit here and scrub at it, it'll actually come off. But when I come in here, it's not getting enough of the haze out. So what I'm going to end up doing is using a lighter polish. So currently I am using the Rupes kind of light polish, but there's one below this. So I'm going to use the one below that, and it's not going to cause this effect. This, again, because if I'm sitting here really scrubbing this, I'm going to put a little bit of scratching in here, so I don't want to do that. Instead, I'm just going to switch up my pad polish combo, and we should be perfectly fine on those. It's doing the same thing on this as well. And polishing these, again, like I was saying, is very tricky because this is about as soft as can be. Likely going to be the same instance down here. So we're going to use the white pad with the white Rupes on this soft combo. I've found that it's very good on stuff like this, as well as this. Piano black pillars, same thing. So if I come around here, all of this trim here around the mirror bezel, as well as these always get swirled out like crazy. They just, people close with that. Definitely not where you want to be closing your car door because those scratch so darn easily. But nonetheless, we'll get this polished out looking perfect. Right now, as it is, a little dusty from the polish, but we'll get this polished out looking nice and crisp. So let's talk piano black. We've got the rest of the Rivian R1T polished out. We've got the headlights dialed in, got this dialed in as well. But lots of black plastic, piano black that is. This stuff is notoriously tricky to polish out. So we've got it underneath the mirror, A pillar, B pillars as always, and above the window surround here. The interesting thing with this truck, and I'm curious, I haven't actually polished this section yet, so we've got, I believe, probably an arrow piece here, as well as the entire spoiler up here. I'm not sure if this is a painted section or if it's actually the piano black like this. Now, what's very interesting, and I thought this was a great time to make a quick little clip on this, is the difference between a polish and a compound in this section. And you're going to think, that's kind of weird. The polish looks worse. And that's absolutely true. So this is kind of interesting. This right here is Uno Pure. This is something that I use on extremely difficult to finish out black paint. This has no abrasive in it basically at all. If you rub it in your fingers, it literally feels oily. Normally something like this, you would rub your fingers together and it feels gritty, right? All of your compounds, most of the polishes have some level of grit because that's how you cut the paint, getting the polish or compound working in that. What's really interesting with this is stuff I've used for years. This is CarPro Fixer, and I have really only ever used it on gloss piano black plastic like this. And let me show you the difference because it's just insane. So this side is my Rupes Uno Pure, and you can see really hazy, not really what we're going after. And this is a medium cut compound. How insane is that? Same pad, so we're using the Rupes 3-inch here with the white lightest foam pad and fixer to get those results. Very, very crazy. I think what's happening with fixer on this is we're having a lot of diminishing abrasives, and I think that should be a whole separate video. I think it'd be super interesting to talk about because all compounds and polishes have a working time. And when we talk working time is how long the cutting is on it. So if you're using a long cutting time, the abrasives really do not diminish. So you're getting a lot more haze down the road. I think why this is turning out so nice is because CarPro has engineered that to have severe diminishing abrasives, which is fantastic because it's a short working time, but we're cutting all that haze out, but finishing out to perfection. Yeah, this kind of stuff is not great. But again, this is the third polish. So I've used a different polish on the paint, a different polish on here, and a different one on the headlights and tail lights as well. And we've got those absolutely dialed in, looking crystal clear back here. So we're gonna keep chugging away here, getting all of this up top dialed in, finishing all the plastic around the windows, and of course, all of the B-pillars. Just kind of an interesting tidbit there. Like I said, I would really like to make a whole video just talking polish, talking compound, why stuff works on certain cars, why it doesn't on others, but this was a great situation. These, I have a feeling, are gonna be very tricky to polish out. Contoured and, you know, like areas in here would be very tricky. May have to break out the hybrid to get in there, but nonetheless, we'll make it happen. Okay, we are starting to get to the home stretch here on the Rivian R1T. This thing is looking incredible. So since last clip, been doing quite a bit of work. This is our last day, so this is the next morning since polishing. Now, the paint is already coated with the first layer of G-Technic Crystal Serum Light. It looks absolutely stunning. All of the lights as well, the gloss black trim down here as I move around. Look at the reflections in this. These came out pretty darn nice, getting those polished. They were definitely a little tricky. Everything you see here is coated other than the trim, of course. Now, we've got the second layer, which is the top coat, and we are using G-Technic XOV4 on that. And I think that will just make this look that much better, have a little bit more protection, and just look absolutely stunning. I'll show you a few clips of doing the second layer of coating. It's always pretty cool to watch those. Now, the wheels, as we talked about before, so I did do quite a bit of cleaning on those. I've got a coating on here already. I just did the faces. We're not going in and doing the barrels. Also not going crazy on the inner fender liners. I just wanted to clean those up a little bit because they were pretty dirty during the washing process. I was able to get most of it. Like I said, again, if we were coating the face of the wheels, pulling these off, I would really like to get in here, ceramic coat all that, but not the project what we're doing on here. This thing just looks insane. The clarity in the paint just looks awesome. So yeah, home stretch here. The rest of the day, so after I get the paint coated, we're gonna start working on the trim. That's gonna be kind of a big project. This truck has a lot of it. Also getting all of the skid plates in the front coated as well. Just a little bit of work on the interior. I always like to, especially when we're doing a full detail like this, do the interior for the client. I don't charge them for that. It's one of those freebies that's kind of awesome to do. It takes me a couple hours. Unless it's severely bad, I'll include that in the price. But something like this, what I'm gonna do is just do a nice vacuum inside, make sure the interior looks perfect, as well as the windows. It's always kind of, you know, one of those things, so you get the whole outside of the truck perfect, or a car in that matter, and hop inside and there's crumbs everywhere. Nobody wants that. So that's just a little freebie I do, but this thing looks absolutely stunning. The first layer of coating went on super nice. It's getting a little warmer in the day. It's getting close to noon, lunchtime here. I'm gonna get the second layer on before it gets too warm and we start having issues with the coating, but very happy. let's show you guys real time how I do EXO V4. Now, I'll be quite honest, I've always quite struggled with this coating. I've already got the left side coated here, but I want to show you how this goes on. So it's already started curing, and this stuff, like you'll hear me talk about a lot, likes to sweat. So instead of turning kind of that rainbow effect, this stuff sweats, and it looks really interesting when it goes on. It looks like we're just applying an insane amount of coating, but we're actually not. I like to leave this on, give or take about 3 minutes, but I did this panel literally probably, or this section here, probably a minute before here, and then it'll kind of even out. Now, what I've struggled with EXO in the past is it kind of hazes a little bit. And what I've kind of figured out is using a kind of top coat on top of the top coat when I'm wiping it off. So what I'll do here is I've got my towels set up here. So I'll go one wipe, not getting all of it. I'll go with the second wipe, still not getting all of it. I'll go with the third wipe, try and get 90% of it, and then I'll come in. This is actually the wrong bottle, but I'm using P&S Bead Maker with the orange towel here. It's nice to have color-coded systems so I know exactly what's going on, laying them out. Also, I should have the cap on here. That's not great to do. But yeah, so we're just waiting on this. As I'm starting to see, as these beads get tighter and tighter, we'll be ready to wipe this off. There's a lot that goes with the EXO coating, and like I said in the past, I've kind of struggled applying this stuff. I've had a few times that it just didn't go on perfectly right, and have had to kind of do some things around there to fix it. But this stuff is well worth the effort because the hydrophobicness of this top coat is just insanity. This stuff is so nice, makes a huge difference. Crystal Serum Light you can use as a single coating. We got to toss that towel there. It looks like it fell off. Crystal Serum Light is a single coating. You can use it like that. I like to use it base coat, top coat, and yeah. So I'm going to get wiping here as I'm seeing this. It's ready to come off. All right, so working on the second layer of coating with EXO V4. I've already coated this section. You'll notice still a little bit of haze here. I like to do my first initial wipe, leave that work on the second panel. So I'm going to show you guys real time here how we do that. I've got my towel set up, so this was first wipe, second wipe, third wipe, and then this I use with P&S Bead Maker. That's actually the wrong bottle, but not a big deal. So I'm going to put a little on here, make sure we put the cap back on so the coating isn't curing in the bottle. We're going to come over here and using the body lines, we're going to get this panel coated. Now, I have had issues with EXO in the past, and that's why I've used that fourth step. And that is kind of a light top coat on top of a top coat. It's kind of weird to think about, but I'll show you exactly what I mean over here with some of the hazing. EXO goes a long way, so I like to do a small section, come back. We're not dousing this, not getting it super soaking wet, but we will work on this panel as we go. And I like to definitely cross-hatch EXO to make sure we get it laid down very evenly. This stuff looks kind of crazy and almost kind of scary when we put it on. So I'm going to hit this top section here. And we're going to let this sit for about 2 to 3 minutes. Now, in the meantime, what I'm going to do is come back to this panel and start wiping it down. Again, noticing some haze there, so I'm going to pick up my second towel. And I'm going to come start wiping this in a circular motion. That's what I've found. EXO seems to, especially like here in this contoured area, seems to get a little tricky. So that's why I've kind of got this 4-towel method to wipe this stuff down. And it seems to work perfect once I get it going. So as I look at the paint now, it looks decently good, but as you can see, as I get over here, there's these little streaks in here. And as we keep wiping, that's all going to go away. That's one of the biggest things with this coating that I've been fighting, is that little bit of streaking, hazing, and yeah. So I'm going to just continue wiping this. I'm going to put you guys down for right now. I'll show you the last step after we get this panel wiped down and move on to the next. So on the center panel here, in the meantime, this was curing. I've got this wiped down with the third step, and it's looking pretty good under the light here. Now, as the towels kind of get a little bit filled up with coating, I can do one of two things. I can get more of these towels out, which I will do, but I also like to finish this entire panel. So I'll do the hood and then come back and do the bead maker on top, double check it with the SCANGRIP, making sure I get every last single bit of haze out, making sure I'm wiping on adjacent panels. So when I wipe this section here, it's obviously going to come over here as well as down on the fender. So I want to make sure I'm over wiping, but check out how crazy EXO looks when it goes on. It sweats like crazy. So let's do, again, I'll just show you the first step and show you how hazy this stuff looks when it comes off. It honestly is kind of scary looking. So the first time I used this, it was kind of like, ooh, I really have to shrink down the sections. And now I'm able to work in bigger sections, but still like to use the body lines to my advantage. So the first layer, what I like to do is do a straight line motion. So I'm going to go north to south, south to north, and you'll see right here is a perfect example. I over wiped on that, so I want to absolutely make sure I hit that, because otherwise, if this cures in the meantime, we're going to get coating high spots. It's a great way to just make sure you're looking at other panels and yeah, make sure you're not missing anything. So I'll show you here after the first wipe. Look how streaky that is. So what I'll do is I'll get this kind of wiped down just a little bit more. I'll coat the other side of the hood there, come back, work on this section just like I was working on this one. So it's kind of a process for, you know, maybe DIY guys or novices. Maybe not the best idea to do it this way. I've worked with so many ceramic coatings in my life that I've kind of got the big process dialed in now. So it's not too bad. All right, so now we'll keep moving on. We're going to coat this panel. Once we get this completed and this completed, we'll put bead maker on here and the whole hood will be done. Okay, so let's show you guys the fourth and final step to the second layer coating, and that is using P&S bead maker. Check out, this stuff literally beads up off the paint. That's how awesome EXO and Crystal Serum Light are. So I'm going to use a pretty heavy amount. Make sure I get some on the face of my towel here. And what I'm going to do is come in and just lightly work this in. This is just one of those like cherry on top pieces here, and we want to make sure we're not getting it on adjacent panels here because we are going to be putting the second layer on. Don't want to interfere with that, but I'm going to come in, flip the towel, and do a dry wipe, and you can already see, look how crystal clear that is. Like I've said in the past in this video, I've had some kind of issues with EXO getting that haze. It just kind of depends where, if you don't get it wiped off properly. Definitely in this hood, I'm going to be extremely mindful that I really check that over, because that's typically where it likes to kind of sit. Also here on the doors, this nice concave piece down here, I'll make sure I really check that. But let's get the SCANGRIP light out here, and that's the final result. Literally crystal clear paint, absolutely nothing in there. That's exactly what we're going for. So I'm going to continue these steps. I'll finish the rest of this hood, and I'll start down the fenders, front bumper, go all the way around the truck, repeating the same process we just did. The second layer of this coating always takes a lot longer, so just ensuring I have enough time to do that and it's not getting too hot in the day. But look at the reflections here, just absolutely insane. Wow, this thing looks stunning. I can't wait to see it outside because this green just absolutely pops. And again, just making sure we're not going crazy and getting coating up here. I've got that wiped down already. Very, very important to over wipe panels. Get the adjacent panels, make sure you're getting that wiped off. That's how coating high spots happen. Also checking your work, so especially in like little nooks and crannies here, coming in and making sure we got every last bit of the coating. Takes some time, but the whole details take time, right? So if you skimp out on this last step of not double checking your work, that's where you can run into some serious issues. Look at the gloss on that thing. All right, I'm going to finish the rest of the truck, get the paint coated. We'll talk more about the trim when we're ready for it, the finishing details. Can't wait to show the end results. I'm super excited to see this thing all the way done. This will definitely be the cleanest Rivian I've ever seen. Can't wait to get all this trim coated because it looks pretty dull right now. So I'm gonna keep chugging along here. All right, I've got Charlie here checking over my work, but I think it's time to talk trim. So I actually got this side of the truck already coated. Down here, this is already coated. I'm gonna leave this to show you guys how that works, and we're gonna finish coating all down here as well. Now on the side here, I wanna point something out, that these two panels here, kind of this front bumper section and the wheel arch, look slightly different. And I noticed that originally when the truck came in. So even though I coated these, they do look slightly different. They're a little bit different texture, maybe something to look at down the road with Rivian. I've got this whole aero area here coated as well. Look how silky smooth that looks. Just looks amazing. All the way down. Kind of had to stop at a certain point. I could go crazy and go the whole underbody, but not what we're doing on this project. Also, quick note, I did this side already on the inside of this gear tunnel sill with all of this being coated. I want to show you on the other side what it looks like not being coated. It'll give you a nice 50-50 shot. When I opened these up originally, I was kind of surprised of how much grime is in this. And that's because, as I said this before, there's no sill on the outside, only the inside. So this is going to be an area that really attracts a lot of dirt. I've already got all this coated on the top. Instead of taping this off, I used my brain, put the tonneau cover back. I don't know why I didn't think of that before, but I got it dialed in now. So all this is ceramic coated. It just looks silky smooth, how it should look. Now on the rear bumper, kind of same as the sides, I've got most of it all done here. I could have probably gone all the way under the truck and done everything. We've even got that aluminum accent piece there coated. All up here under the lights, on the camera. Everything on this is now coated. So here's the other side. I've got this all the way done besides here. And you can really see a nice 50-50 mark of how much richer this looks. This kind of looks really dull. Some little white marks in here. That'll all go away once I get that coated. This side is done already as well. I did leave this. I just want to show a comparison of what it looks like. I'm going to show you guys how to coat all of these little things. Not something that most people would do, but of course I'm going to do that. Also this kind of skid plate on the bottom here, this aluminum, but I actually coated that with the trim coating. We'll see how that kind of holds up. Maybe kind of a little test there. If it doesn't seem to be working super well, when this car comes back in for a maintenance detail, maybe I'll recoat this with something else, but kind of want to play with that a little bit. So let's get right into this. We're going to get all this coated, this whole front end, as well as this little side and the gear tunnel, but we are looking amazing. This car, oh, I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled. It takes so long to get here and we go through so many stages when, you know, honestly, when the first paint correction goes on and there's dust flying everywhere and the car is dirty and the wheels aren't done, all of that stuff, you're kind of like, wow, is this thing going to come together? And it always does. But Yeah, this right here makes me so happy. We're also going to come in here, clean this door jamb as well as all the door jambs on the truck with the PNS bead maker. And that is a great product to use in those areas instead of just going full crazy and trying to ceramic coat every square inch and get a bunch of high spots. This is a good in between. I use that on all my personal cars. But nonetheless, let's start getting this ceramic coated on the bottom. Now, quick note, the gloss black's already done. Again, CSL and XOV4 on that and the whole bumper. So we'll be mindful here around this black because we definitely don't want to try and get as much, we want to keep the coating off of there as much as we possibly can. Show you some little tips and tricks on that when we go. So without going too crazy here, I'm going to coat the rest of this gear tunnel. And I just want to show you how nice this stuff goes on. Look at the difference of that. Just crazy, crazy amount. Now the big thing here is making sure we're getting a very level, even coating. Trying to get in all those nooks and crannies as well as up here. Now typically I wouldn't ceramic coat most of the door jambs unless my client specifically asked me. But again, these were just absolutely filthy when I originally saw it. So I just want to ensure that we're kind of protecting this area for him. And that's about it. So it doesn't take a ton of work, just being mindful of not getting a ton up here on the paint. If we do, we can wipe it down. Got a little bit up there right now. But we'll get this wiped down and leveled after, I don't know, about a minute to a minute and a half or so, just making sure we get it looking nice and clean. And this here, you'll see, this is already a coated section, got a little bit more on there, so we'll make sure we really take care of that area and make sure we don't have any sort of line there. All right, so let's get this area knocked out here, and it actually goes all the way down here and has this little flap down here, so we'll make sure we coat all of that, and just being mindful that we don't want to get too much on here without wiping that off. Let's quickly talk coating applicators. Now, I have three main ones here. So we've got a suede microfiber, an actual microfiber block. I use this for larger areas, and then the detailing swab. This I'll show you, but I'll come in and hand coat every single one of those little ovals on the grill over here. Now, what I like to do when I'm just ceramic coating trim here, so I'm going to get a little bit off camera here. I've got a new suede microfiber applicator, put a little bit on here, and I like to make it into a tip. And I'm going to come in here and just be very gentle, trying to keep it off the paint as much as possible. And just make it nice and even. So now that I've got kind of that edge section done, what I'll come back and do is take my bigger applicator block, because this really helps work it into the bigger sections. And I will just come in and start massaging this in. I tell you what, if you guys are ever in a bad mood and need something to do that will just make things a lot better, it's sitting here coating stuff and making a huge difference. Look at that 50-50 difference. This just looks dull and dry and gross and nasty. That's not what we're wanting. We want all the protection we can get, especially since this truck has a lot of black trim on it. We want to ensure that we're protecting all of that as well. And not sure if the video has gone live or will be later on, but I have a full video talking about the difference between trim coating and like trim dressings, some sort of like that you would use on tires or even on stuff like this. But I talk a little bit about why I just use trim coatings instead. They're just such a fantastic product. So we're gonna let this sit for a little bit. And while we're doing that, let's talk about up here. Up here is going to be a little tricky to get to. We've got a nice lip here. You'll remember we had a lot of compound in these areas, so I really want to make sure I get that protected with the coating. Again, similar situation, what I'll probably end up doing is coming in here and just being very detailed with getting that line perfect. If not, I can maybe pop in one of these swabs and go for it. That way we'll kind of see as we go there. Now that we've kind of let this sit for a little bit on here, we've got the back side all the way down underneath as well. We're just going to come in here and gently take care of some of the higher spots and make sure that it looks absolutely even. This coating, this trim coating goes on so nice. I've used some other ones in the past that are literally like wiping honey off of this. I mean, they get so sticky. This stuff is so slick. I love it. It's not greasy. This is how trim should look. And again, even from, you know, this truck having 3,000 miles, it was crazy to see the 50-50 of that, how much this has already faded. Very, very important. This has a lot of UV protectant in it, and I think is kind of the cherry on top for the detail. It just really makes everything look so much nicer and richer. It's always a fantastic stage. Now let's jump over here. Let's get these really intricate areas. I'm going to show you how I do the grill as well. All right, so let's start working on these super intricate areas and see how we do. So first, I'm going to hit this kind of fog light area, and I'm not worried about, I'm going to go right over the fog light just to give it a little bit more protection, but I want to stay off the paint here, and that's very tricky to do. So just being very patient, following that body line. Looks like we got it nice and neat in there. So, as the same goes for here, we're trying to keep it off the gloss black. We're just going to run this along and make sure it looks nice and tidy. I'm going to leave that section just for video purposes so you guys can see a little bit of the difference there of how nice this is looking. I'll make sure that I blend that together. Now, this is pretty straightforward for the most part, but these are really, really cool detailing swabs that I found, and I love them for coating plastic trim. So I poured a little on my applicator here, and what I can literally do is come in here and coat every single little honeycomb here. May seem a little overboard to people, but this is what really makes the details matter. We're detailing, right? That means every single little thing needs to be done. You know, if we're going for just a quick car wash type of deal, we're not going to go for this, right? We're not going insane on all this stuff, but now's the time to do it. We're here for protection. That's why this client brought me his Rivian, is to get it protected and make it easy to clean. So now we're just going to come in here and hit the face. There are times where it can be just slightly tricky to get this wiped down, and I found that this coating relatively overall, say you have like really, really tiny honeycombs that you can't get a towel into, right? It's okay to leave it like that. It will look slightly shinier, but I think for the protection, it makes all the difference. So I'm going to let this cure a little bit. Again, want to be extremely mindful that I'm not globbing this around all of the black plastic trim here. The other thing you could do, I guess since these are a little bit bigger, is you could wrap a suede microfiber around this and kind of go in like that. I love the detailing swabs though. They're single use. In areas like this that I see I just missed, you can come in and really get all those fine little points to make sure you didn't miss anything. So I'm going to come in here, again just being mindful, we want to make sure we wipe down that fog light because we coated that with the trim coating. And that's totally safe to do because that's another plastic. It's just kind of easier than trying to do two different coatings in that area. But let's kind of come into these honeycombs. What I like to do is take this around my finger. These are perfect because you can easily come in here, knock these down, make sure there's no high spots. And I do see that I already touched the gloss black. Again, this is why I like to coat the trim after the paint, is because Normally, if I'm gonna come in here and coat all of this first and I leave a high spot there, when I go back to ceramic coat over it, I may have missed that and it's tricky to wipe off. So what I'll do is I'm gonna go get one of my paint coating towels. Once I get this all wiped off, I'll come back and smooth that out. The nice thing is that coating is repelling it since it's mostly cured now, so this is super easy to wipe off. So there is a little bit of, yeah, you have to be a little bit diligent and not try and smear it everywhere, right? Because it's, the less we touch, especially gloss black, the better. But it's kind of inevitable to get a little bit on there. And I'll pick you guys up here and show you that spot real quick. So you can see that slight haze in the gloss black there. I'll get that knocked out with a coating towel, and it's not a huge deal. So I'll just quickly come in with my coating towel. I always have these for the paint being red. I'm gonna come in here, knock this down. Look how easy that comes off. Normally, if that was not coated paint, that would be a pain in the butt to get off sometimes. So looking amazing here. Again, just a crazy 50-50. This is kind of a weird plastic piece. It's a very different than, say, this trim. It's smooth to the touch, not this textured finish. I'm gonna throw you guys on the time lapse and we're gonna get this grill knocked out as well as this lower section. So I noticed after that time lapse that I did that I missed these inner parts here. I guess I didn't see that there was kind of a flat piece there and actually had some spots in there. So went back in and coated those on both sides and now is looking perfect. We are done with the trim coating. This thing just looks absolutely proper now. It makes such a difference, just especially in person. I hope it pulls on camera, how much different getting areas like this coated looks. Like it just looks so much crisper, so much cleaner. So we are now in the finishing stages. So next up, we need some tire shine on. I like CarPro Pearl, a 1 to 3, 1 to 5 normally I use, so it's not super shiny. We've got to finish up the door jambs, hit the windows, as well as lightly go through the interior, and then the Rivian R1T is fully protected and ready to rock and roll. All right, so since the last clip, I've been doing some work, working hard, getting the windows dialed in, getting the door jambs perfect. I did not finish the interior yet because we are losing sunlight, but I wanted to show you guys this thing. And I've had a moment to look around this. I could not be more thrilled. Look at how stunning this paint looks. That's what we've been working so hard for. Just crystal clear. We are protected and the paint just looks absolutely flawless. This was an extremely fun project. We've got all the trim coated. Look how nice this looks out in the sun. Oh my gosh, absolutely thrilled with this. Again, on the wheels, I would have loved to coat those and coat all inside the actual fender arch, but that's not what this project was about. You'll remember again, we removed all of the PPF from here. I think that was the right choice. This just looks absolutely stunning out in the sun. I mean, the reflections off this, I couldn't be more thrilled, guys. So this was a very fun project. First Rivian fully through the shop. We did have Kyle's earlier over on the Out of Spec Reviews channel before, but that truck was just for a little wash. This one got the full treatment though. Could not be more thrilled. Check out the reflections in the hood here. Just insane clarity in that. Rivian, I'm pretty impressed with your paint, I have to say. Although there was some kind of issues with some sanding marks and stuff like that, I'm pretty blown away with this vehicle. Maybe one of these in the garage is what needs to happen next. Wow. So guys, I just want to say thank you for joining us for this long series. I hope you're enjoying these. This is kind of going to be a staple on this channel, is taking big projects like this, running through all the steps of it. I think it's really cool to see the difference, especially going between cars, seeing the differences between maybe a brand new car, a different manufacturer, all their little nuances, all the little tips and tricks that I have for you guys. As always, if you have questions, comments, anything like that, leave them down below in the comments. But this project, honestly, this has probably been one of the most fun projects I've had in a while. This is kind of a dream vehicle for me at the moment. I've gotten bitten by the electric bug, as some would say, and could not be more thrilled with how this one turned out. So thank you guys again for joining us for another out of spec detailing video. We'll catch you in the next one here. And as always, thank you and goodbye from Clear Detailing in Windsor, Colorado.